Federalist 18, Federalist 18, Part 5. One important fact seems to be witnessed by all the historians who take notice of Achaean affairs. It is that as well after the renovation of the League by Aratus as before its dissolution by the arts of Macedon, there was infinitely more of moderation and justice in the administration of its government, and less of violence and sedition in the people than were to be found in any of the cities exercising singly all the prerogatives of sovereignty. Abbe Mably, in his observations on Greece, says that the popular government, which was so tempestuous elsewhere, caused no disorders in the members of the Achaean Republic, because it was there tempered by the general authority and laws of the Confederacy. Notice it mentions Abbe Mably, another famous historian that was on the list of books that Jefferson had sent to Madison. Again, Jefferson, who was America's minister to France, had sent two trunk full of books, he said, which meant two big luggages full of books on history of confederacies and world history. One of the historians whose books Madison got in study was Abbe Mably. So he's referring to that. So constantly he's reminding us of the importance of history to us. And that's why I say when Federalist 18, 19, 20, and for that matter the rest of the Federalists, every time you read them, you listen to them, just make sure that it's in a way a reflection on the history. Because it constantly says there's nothing more to teach us. There's nothing, but he keeps on saying the oracle of wisdom. Remember? History. Some of the Federalists, it says, gives us wisdom when we look at history deeply and learn from it. We are not to conclude too hastily, however, that faction did not, in a certain degree, agitate the particular cities, much less than a due subordination and harmony reigned in the general system. The contrary is sufficiently displayed in the vicissitudes and fate of the Republic. Whilst the Amphictyonic Confederacy remained, that of the Achaeans, which comprehended the less important cities only, made little figure on the theater of Greece. When the former became a victim to Macedon, the latter was spared by the policy of Philip and Alexander. Under the successor of these princes, however, a different policy prevailed. The arts of division was practiced among the Achaeans. Remember, he says Philip and Macedon might have been good to the Achaeans, but the arts of division, he's reminding his readers that, watch out, the British Empire, the Spanish, the French, they will be practicing their arts of division. They will be coming and trying to divide us one way or another. So he says, beware of that. We are not immune to it. The arts of division were practiced among the Achaeans. Each city was seduced into a separate interest. The union was dissolved. Some of the cities fell under the tyranny of Macedonian garrisons, others under that of usurpers springing out of their own confusions. Shame and oppression ere long awakened their love of liberty. A few cities reunited. Their example was followed by others as opportunities were found of cutting off their tyrants. The League soon embraced almost the whole Peloponnesus. Macedon saw its progress, but was hindered by internal dissensions from stopping it. All Greece caught the enthusiasm and seemed ready to unite in one confederacy when the jealousy and envy in Sparta and Athens of the rising glory of the Achaeans threw a fatal damp on that enterprise. So when the Achaeans were again showing themselves and becoming stronger, Sparta and Athens became jealous, and rather than having a united Greece under Achaean leadership, they became jealous and destroyed the whole thing. The dread of the Macedonian power induced the League to court the alliance of the kings of Egypt and Syria, who, as successors of Alexander, were rivals of the king of Macedon. This policy was defeated by Cleomenes, king of Sparta, who was led by his ambition to make an unprovoked attack on his neighbors, the Achaeans, and who, as an enemy to Macedon, had interest enough with the Egyptian and Syrian princes to effect a breach of their engagements with the League. The Achaeans were now reduced to the dilemma of submitting to Cleomenes or of supplicating the aid of Macedon, its former oppressor. The latter expedience was adopted. The contests of the Greeks always afforded a pleasing opportunity to that powerful neighbor of intermeddling in their affairs. A Macedonian army quickly appeared. Cleomenes was vanquished. The Achaeans soon experienced, as often happens, that a victorious and powerful ally is but another name for master. At that, all that their most abject compliances could obtain from him was a toleration of the exercise of their laws. Philip, who was now on the throne of Macedon, soon provoked by his tyranny's fresh combinations among the Greeks. The Achaeans, though weakened by internal dissensions and by the revolt of Mycenae, one of its members, being joined by Aetolians and Athenians, erected the standard of opposition. Finding themselves, though thus supported, unequal to the undertaking, they once more had recourse to the dangerous expedient of introducing the succor of foreign arms. The Romans, to whom the invitation was made, eagerly embraced it. Philip was conquered, Macedon subdued, a new crisis ensued to the League. Dissensions broke out among its members. These the Romans fostered. Callicrates and other popular leaders became mercenary instruments for inveighling their countrymen. The more effectually to nourish discord and disorder the Romans had, to the astonishment of those who confided in their sincerity, already proclaimed universal liberty throughout Greece. With the same insidious views, They now seduced the members from the League by representing to their pride the violation it committed on their sovereignty. By these arts, this union, the last hope of Greece, the last hope of ancient liberty, was torn into pieces, and such imbecility and distraction introduced that the arms of Rome found little difficulty in completing the ruin which their arts had commenced. The Achaeans were cut to pieces, the Achaea loaded with chains, under which it is groaning at this hour. I have thought it not superfluous to give the outlines of this important portion of history, both because it teaches more than one lesson and because, as a supplement to the outlines of the Achaean constitution, it emphatically illustrates the tendency of federal bodies rather to anarchy among the members than to tyranny in the head. So he says, we who are living under this weak confederacy, we have to learn from the histories of these confederacies. Back then, it was at first Philip and Alexander, then the Romans came and created a big division amongst them and ruled them, conquered them and ruled them. If we stay disunited, British, the Spanish, the French will come and do the same to us. At first, they will encourage disunion amongst us, and later they will rule us because they don't want to see a republic. They don't want people governing themselves. They want nobility and kings to rule over people